Now, as we do so many weeks here at the Daily Dose, we need to get to our Daily Dose top 5. Hey, the NBA has a big problem. Load management, as they are calling it these days, is a concern. And the problem has gotten so bad that in the new collective bargaining agreement, the league actually built in a minimum number of games for players to play so that they could earn postseason awards. Is that needed? Yeah, probably. Is it kind of pathetic that it's needed? Yeah, definitely. NBA players don't really seem to want to play their game. But here's the dirty little secret. Many times the owner and the franchise itself doesn't want them to play either. Hey, if a draft pick can turn your franchise around, then you don't want to scrap out a few meaningless wins. But here's the thing. This has been going on for years. How long? Well, the NBA literally put in their lottery system for the NBA draft back in 1985 to try to alleviate the tanking. Instead of the worst team just getting the top pick automatically, you are entered into a lottery where maybe you'll get the top pick. Has it dissuaded teams from tanking for a good player in the draft? Not even close. Today, our Daily Dose Top 5 is counting down the top 5 times the NBA teams blatantly tanked for a really good draft pick. And here's the more disturbing part. It paid off. So we start off at number 5, and there are bad teams that are kind of bad, and then there are terrible teams that are truly, really, really bad. Well, the 1983 Houston Rockets, yeah, they're the latter. The team had a 14-68 record, one of the worst all time, despite the fact that they had been playing in the NBA Finals just a few years before in 1981. The Rockets traded away franchise center Moses Malone after the Sixers signed him as a restricted free agent. In exchange, they got Caldwell Jones and a first-round pick in the 83 draft. So the front office decided, we're going to hedge our bets on the future with University of Virginia big man Ralph Sampson. He was 7'4". He could run the floor. He was very, very athletic. Sampson was a 3-time college player of the year and a center, which is something that they thought maybe he could fill in the shoes of Moses Malone. Because the team had players, but most of them were past their prime. So you had Caldwell Jones, you had Calvin Murphy, you had Elvin Hayes, but then you just had a bunch of young guys. After winning just 14 games, the Rockets were in play for the top pick, and they won, at the time, a coin toss for the rights to draft Ralph Sampson, which they did. Just 3 years later, Sampson would team up with another young superstar and lead the Houston Rockets to the NBA Finals. They came up a little short, but they made it. The 1983 Houston Rockets come in today at number 5. So we move next to number 4, and this is it. This one is the original. This is kind of where it all started. I mean, make no mistake, teams had tanked before, but this was a real tank job. Because, make no mistake, the New York Knicks back in 1984, 1985, they were bad. Sure, they had Bernard King. They had Bill Cartwright. They had Pat Cummings. But Cummings was not yet the player that he became. King was very, very good. He averaged 33 points a game. But he also had to carry so much of the load that he ended up sitting out nearly 30 games because of injury. And then Bill Cartwright missed the entire season with an injury. Trust me, the Knicks didn't mind one single bit, because not since Lou Alcindor had been at UCLA back in 1969 had there been a giant as dominant as 7-foot, 240-pound Georgetown center Patrick Ewing. In 4 years at Georgetown, Ewing took the Hoyas to 3 NCAA finals. They actually won one of them. And Patrick Ewing was, quite simply, a total package. He could guard the rim. He could rebound. He could dominate the low post. He could hit shots pretty consistently out to about 20 feet, too. Ewing just didn't really have any weaknesses to his game. He played hard. He worked hard. He wanted to win. The problem for the Knicks was that as bad as they were that year, they finished with a 24-58 record. There were a few other teams that were tanking for Ewing too. The Golden State Warriors and the Indiana Pacers each had only won 22 games. However, remember, this was the first year. The worst team didn't automatically just get the top pick. The NBA had instituted a draft lottery where, and this is kind of bizarre, teams would get an envelope, a big envelope, tossed into a lottery hopper. And then Commissioner David Stern would pull out the envelope and announce the draft order. Now, the conspiracy says that Stern froze the Knicks envelope so he could find the cold one when he reached in the hopper. He could get the once proud Knicks back to being a contender again. I'm not sure about any of that. But I will say this. If you go back and you watch the video of the draft lottery, you will see the Knicks envelope definitely has a big crease in it. You could see that on the broadcast. Maybe he felt a big crease. I don't know. Whatever happened, Stern pulled the New York Knicks. The Knicks drafted Patrick Ewing. And while they may not have ever won a title with Ewing, they were definitely back in contention at least. The Knicks and Patrick Ewing come in today on our list at number 4. So we arrive at number 3, and back in the 83-84 season, remember, the NBA didn't have that lottery system quite yet. So the two worst teams, as they did in our number 5 entry, they would flip a coin to determine who would have the right to the first pick of the draft. Now, the coin toss after the 1984 season would completely change the Western Conference in the NBA. The 83-84 Houston Rockets already had their franchise player. They had Ralph Sampson, remember. He was the first pick back in 1983. But then the Houston Rockets actually did something completely insane. They completely tanked the next season so they could get the first or second pick in the 84 draft too. Can you imagine getting 2 number 1 picks 2 years in a row? Well, the Rockets wanted to do that, and it led to them having a horrendous 9-27 finish down the stretch, despite the fact that they did have Ralph Sampson. He was the 83-84 Rookie of the Year. But here's the thing. If the Rockets could get the first pick the following year, they would have a chance to get do-everything center Akeem Olajuwon. If they had the second pick, it still wasn't bad. Because then you could go pick either Michael Jordan or Sam Perkins or Sam Bowie or Charles Barkley. There are a number of guys to pick in this draft. Putting it simply, the Houston Rockets couldn't lose if they tanked again. In fact, the year after this was when the NBA put in the lottery system to prevent tanking. But they didn't get it in time this year. The Rockets won the toss, and they selected Akeem Olajuwon. And Akeem Olajuwon, of course, would lead the team to back-to-back titles in 94 and 95. Hey, the tanking worked wonders for the Rockets, who went literally from worst to first and even won a few titles with Akeem the Dream. The 83-84 Houston Rockets coming today at number 3. So we move next to number 2 on our list of teams that have tanked for a superstar player. And we don't have to go back quite as far for this one, because the Cleveland Cavaliers were absolutely terrible in the early 2000s. But in 2002 and 2003, they were kind of terrible on purpose, because the Cleveland Cavaliers wanted a chance to draft the most publicized high school player in NBA history. And it wasn't just that they wanted this kid. It was that he was also a native to the state of Ohio, because LeBron James wouldn't just bring excitement to the Cleveland Cavaliers. He would bring a whole different level of excitement. He's a hometown boy. Now remember, there was very little to cheer about for the Cleveland team when they were tanking to get LeBron James. They were terrible. But again, even if they missed out on the top pick, you still had some other guys in that draft. You had Carmelo Anthony. You had Dwayne Wade. You had Chris Bosh. You even had a guy that was pretty unknown in Darko Milicic. We didn't know that he was going to be a bust. People thought maybe he would end up being good. But at the time, I mean, the Cavs would have taken him if they'd had to. So the Cavs put together a pretty awful roster. They had guys like Andre Miller and Darius Miles and Smush Parker and Jermaine Jones, and they were just blatantly trying to lose. One of their leading scorers was a small forward named Lawan Murray. Wesley Person. I mean, they just didn't have anyone. Cleveland ended up tied with the Denver Nuggets for the worst record in the NBA at 17-65. Of course, they won the lottery. They selected LeBron James, the player they'd hoped to get all along, and he didn't win right away. He left, he went to Miami, but he came back, he returned to Cleveland, and he delivered a title in 2016. Again, did tanking pay off? Yeah. Is it unethical? Yeah. Did it pay off? Yes, it did. We're seeing that again and again on this list. The Cleveland Cavaliers come in today at number 2. So we arrive at number 1, and we arrive at the most successful tank job in NBA history. And we also arrive at a team and at a coach that we can make a pretty strong case that they were the ones that started the entire modern day load management thing. This team, despite its claims that they didn't tank, oh, they totally did. Maybe it wasn't all intentional, but they were okay with it. Let's just say that. The team's franchise center, David Robinson, he'd been injured. Okay, so that kind of helps. So he sat out all but 6 games back in the 96-97 season. Top that off with the fact that the San Antonio Spurs also lost Sean Elliott to a right knee injury. Chuck Person, who at least could score, he had to sit out. He had back spasms. The 1996-1997 San Antonio Spurs finished the season 20-62. Now, you hear that and you think, well, that's pretty bad. It's worse, actually. Because just the previous year, with everybody healthy, they had gone 59-23. All of a sudden, they got real bad real fast. But all of the losing paid off. Because the Spurs won the lottery and they got the first pick in the 1997 NBA draft, who of course would be Wake Forest big man Tim Duncan. Did it pay off? Yeah. He led them to 5 NBA titles in 19 years. Yeah, I'd say it paid off in a big way. This year, we know a number of teams are and have tanked. The Dallas Mavericks literally refused to play their starters in a game that could have got them into the playoffs this year. Oh, I know. The league's going to investigate, but they won't actually do much. They never do. So while we all complain about load management and tanking, the fact is quite simply, tanking and load management do work. Cheating works, or people wouldn't do it. Is it unsavory? Yes. Is it destroying, competitive ethics in the NBA? Of course it is. But these teams don't care one bit. This year, we have French big man Victor Wembanyama, who they are comparing to Kevin Durant. They are saying he is one of the most sure things we have had in the last 10 to 15 years. If you think these teams care 1 ounce about a slap on the wrist to get a chance at Wemby, yeah, then you haven't been paying attention to our Daily Dose Top 5, because as it has shown, this has been happening for years, and it does pay. Hey, YouTube, make sure you go over and check out the rest of the podcast. This week on The Dose, we talk a little bit of sports news. Of course, we did have the Masters over the weekend. We talk a little bit of NBA. We have a story coming out over there. And the Pac-12 is making some interesting decisions. But then we are handing out our end-of-year college basketball awards, and we are taking a brief look forward at the NBA playoffs. So make sure you go over and you check out the full podcast. I will leave a link here in the comments on YouTube for you. Hope you all are doing well. I will see you all next Wednesday. Have a great week.